Greetings and salutations. It's Dave Duford here at Final Expense Agent Mentor, where I help agents like you do better in the final expense business and insurance business at large. And in today's training, I'm actually responding to a subscriber's request to follow up with the replacement video training that I did last week. If you missed that, make sure you go back into the video archives and look for the replacement video where I coached how to do replacements and why to do them and under what circumstances. This particular subscriber asked me to explain specifically for final expense business how to coach and walk a person through the replacement process that has already conceptually agreed to doing a replacement. So what we're going to do today in this training is really help you understand how to do a replacement and make sure that that replacement you do sticks on the books and to coach that client to prepare for what's going to happen next. So where we're starting from, if you can picture this, you've shown your prospect what you can do for them. You can clearly get them a better price, coverage. You've relayed all this information. They trust you. You've done the whole sales presentation. You're down to the close. And you're offering a good, better, best approach. You're asking which works better. And they understand that contingent on this purchase decision is a replacement and getting that replacement out. They understand that, they don't mind that, and they're going to choose X policy. So what do you do at this point with the incumbent business? So the first thing that you have to understand on what to do is that the most important thing is to pick a carrier that is going to do a phone interview, okay? Preferably one in which the decision at the end of the call is highly likely under most circumstances to be confirmed. So here's what I mean by this. There's companies out there that do phone interviews. Let me step back and explain why. I don't want to cancel somebody's existing life insurance plan without the knowledge that they are approved with something else as well. It doesn't do me or the client any good to replace existing life insurance coverage when it actually isn't replaced, right? What if I walk out and they do further underwriting and they have to do an APS request and we've already placed the order to cancel the existing policy? It's no good. You know, now we got a lot of trouble we've caused and we've got to reverse it all, and it's not fair to the client either. So it's ideal in replacement scenarios to pick carriers with phone interviews that give decisions at the end of the call, give a thumbs up or thumbs down. The reason you do that is that you can feel confident about taking the next steps to totally get the incumbent policy, the one that's already there, out of the house. And then also, you don't have to waste time trying to pick up the pieces if something wrong happens. So let's say we pick a carrier where we do a phone interview, they give a decision, and it is a yes decision. We know that it's approved. Well, the next thing that you must do if you want to really maximize your success replacing coverage is before you leave the house, I don't care how late you are to the next appointment, I don't care what time of day it is, you have got to cancel and get rid of that existing policy that's on the books. So a couple clarification points. When I say cancel, what you want to do really more specifically is get the policyholder to request no more future drafts are made. We want to time the replacement policy to draft on the same date as the incumbent policy. So at the stroke of midnight, say on the 3rd of the month when they get drafted, as soon as that old policy falls off the books, we pick up. So there's no lapse of coverage in between. So I don't want them to cancel and possibly get a partial refund and go a period without being covered. That's not good either. And I'll explain this to them as well, because that is going to be a concern. What if I'm not covered? So what I want to do is after I get confirmation it's approved, I tell the client the next step is to go ahead and just take care of your existing policy, and we're going to take it off of draft, or we're going to at least tell them, please don't do any more future drafts. And at that point, where the coverage ends, that's where I want to cancel my plan. So you assist them, get them on the phone with customer service, let them talk to them, and just coach them on what to say in order to set it up smoothly for them. Usually it just takes an additional 3 or 5 minutes. But here's the thing. If you can close your sales call with the other dude out the door, okay, it's going to reduce the successful attempts to conserve existing coverage. If you don't do this, there's a couple of things that could possibly happen. First is buyer's remorse. If you don't kick the incumbent plan out of the house before you go, you'll probably have a higher chance of losing the deal. I'll give you a perfect case in point. I met a lady who she had a Colonial Penn plan. She had pretty good cash value, and she needed the money. And I replaced it, got it approved, just did everything I told you, up to the point of canceling the incumbent. I was way late for another appointment. I said, well, just call the company in the morning, take care of it, and cancel it. She said, yeah, sure, that sounds good. She was excited. She seemed negative about what had happened. Well, I got in a call the next couple of days that she canceled my policy. And I never could reach her after that. And that's what happens. A lot of times we think, oh, we'll go back and save this, or people won't change their mind. It won't be wishy-washy. Well, people do that. And so you've got to take the bull by the horns when you've got the opportunity. And you've got to be in the position to where you just go ahead and boot the thing out while you can. Because people will change their minds, or they get scared, they get remorse. Oh, I've given all this money in, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. So take the time, do it the right way, and kick the other guy out, only if you get the approval. What if you have to write a company? Let's say you're writing a COPD company that doesn't do a phone interview, and you've got a 2-year waiting period they just took out. Now you got them first day full coverage. Well, that might be a little bit different. However, if it's something like if it's a 1.5 years in and they're not fully covered, but they will be in 6 months, and now you can get them fully covered, but you're not sure if you can approve them, I think you owe it to the client to say, look, I would really like to say you could cancel your existing coverage, but let me send this in and get you approved. And once it's approved, I'll call you back, and then I'll tell you how to get rid of this thing. We can 3-way a conversation in. I can coach you through it. But I don't want to cancel your existing coverage if I can't get you anything better. Hopefully that makes sense, okay? Clearly what you got is not a bad deal, but I don't want to make it worse. I want to make it better. And the only way I can make it better is if I know for a fact before we cancel something you're approved. And these people will really appreciate that. You're building goodwill, you're building more trust, and they will go along with that, because most agents, frankly, aren't going to do that. They're just going to say, cancel the other guy and let me get my dude in. And you know, you'll get that stuff that happens. So you got to be careful with that setup, and people appreciate it. Yeah, you may lose deals, but it's the better route to go the vast majority of the time. So what else to cover here? Let's see here. Oh, the last thing to be prepared for on a replacement call is when you make the phone call to do the replacing, and you get everything replaced. You've got the incumbent out. The future drafts are canceled. What you're faced with at this point, you've got pretty much everything in your bias and your advantage. The one thing you've got to be careful of, though, is that if you're dealing with a good agent, which most of the times you won't be, but if you're dealing with a good agent, they will follow up on that and try to conserve that policy at any cost. To the point of, I've seen guys, there's a guy that lives locally where I live. He's worked with he's been a captive agent since, probably 15, 20 years in final expense. And I've run across this dude a multitude of times. I've heard stories from other people that I sold later on about, oh yeah, this guy came here and he said X, Y, and Z, and he's really full of shit. And so anyways, I remember I had a case in Georgia where I added like $3 or $4 grand to this person's policy. We got it replaced. We got the person off a bank draft. And with these people, I was because I knew who I was dealing with. I said, and this is what you should do with your coaching. You coach your clients. Say, look, here's the deal. This totally makes sense that you've got better coverage. You see how you went from 10 to 15,000. You're not paying any more money, or you're paying less money, whatever the particular benefit is. You want to reconfirm that. You want to hear them say, yeah, this is a great deal. I really liked it. And I'll say, well, let me tell you what to expect at this point. It's unlikely, but it's possible that this insurance agent will call you back, or even just try to drop in and potentially harass you into keeping what you have. I have heard things, and so I'll start giving them samples. Say, look, sometimes these agents are just concerned about their money. They're concerned about their commission. They're concerned about keeping the money that they made off of your sale. But what they should have been concerned with, Mrs. Jones, is giving you the best deal. Otherwise, they would have never been in this circumstance. And so they're selfish and they're self-driven by their own greed for money, but not your benefit. So if they call you up and they start saying things like, this company's not from around here, this company's Canadian or a foreign company, or this isn't a real insurance company, it's a fraternal. You got to be aware that these agents will leverage things in a way to suit themselves. And they'll do what's necessary, even if it's not in your best interest, to try to keep you from going with me. So I need to have your commitment here, right now, that you're on board with me and you won't let these other people talk you out of this. Is that something you're completely in agreement in and support of? And what you'll find is they'll say, yes, I am. And so, and look, 80% of the time it won't happen, but you'll get guys who are very aggressive on policy conservation. All those things I just mentioned, foreign company. I mean, I'll tell you this case I had where I told this lady this. She still, when this guy came by her house and aggressively strong-armed her to keep her policy, and there was no good reason to do this. And he said, look, this insurance company, it's not even from here. It's not even from here. This insurance company's in Georgia. And I was like sitting there thinking, well, the policy I wrote's from Utah. Is that not good enough? Is that not American enough for you? You know, it's like, what the hell is he saying? But her excuse was the aggression on getting this policy conserved intimidated her. And that's what I mean, is some of these guys will go to that extent in being aggressive to try to keep you from replacing that business. And it always tends to be the guys who are selling overpriced crap and garbage. And so I've run across this forever. I remember the first time this particular guy replaced me, I sold a fraternal company, Foresters. And the guy was thrilled about it. He was happy. First day full coverage. I got the first draft, got lapsed or whatever. And I called him. I said, what's going on, man? I said, what happened? He says, man, this guy came back. He said, your Foresters is a fraternal. He said, that's too big of a word for this guy to use. He said, you said your company, it's a foreign company. It's from Canada. And it's not even a real insurance company. So I just did what he said and took coverage from him at a higher price, no matter. But, that was my first, like, wow, people do that? They think like this? And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. You know, they fall for anything, you know. But anyways, that's just stuff you're going to deal with. And so when you replace, you've got to prep your clients to anticipate this stuff. And it just takes another 5 minutes to coach them on what to expect, you know, and to set the frame of the argument. That's the important thing. The frame here is that these selfish agents who only care about their commission and not your welfare are going to do and say anything to try to get you to come back. And you need to be committed to me, because what I've done today is a lot better deal. And I'm not just saying that. You can see for yourself that this is a better deal. And unless you think otherwise, let's commit to working together. Does that make sense? So you got to get those guys on board so they don't pull any crazy stunts, because what will happen if you don't coach your clients, then they'll come in and they'll just believe anything. Again, a lot of people just aren't intelligent on insurance. And so you've got to be prepared to handle it in such a manner to where it's completely obvious, and you're fully disclosing, and you lay down the expectations for the relationship. So I say all this because it's probably still a minority of circumstances where this is going to happen. I mean, look, at the end of the day, most agents quit in the next 6 to 9 months, right? So you're not going to see something, especially if it's from one of these captive companies. They're not going to come back a year later. Very likely they won't, because there's nobody there anymore to service. It's an orphan. It's a policyholder who doesn't have an agent anymore. So you'll probably be fine, but don't cut corners. Always coach your clients on what to expect. Get the incumbent out only if you know it's approved while you're in the door. If you got to wait for a decision because there's no phone interview approval, then get the decision, then three-way in the call. Make sure it gets done. Try not to trust these people to do it on their own. It's better if you take control and walk them through the process, make sure it's done, and then coach them on what to expect, because sometimes you're arguing an agent that will try to stop at nothing to get you. My name is David Duford. If you like these kind of videos, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things here. You can click the subscribe button. There's also like a little bell. It's the notification bell. So every time I put out a new video, or I go live, it will give you a notification to check it out as it's streaming or check it out as it's getting published. So make sure you do that. I'd also like you to give me a thumbs up if you haven't in this video already, and leave a comment below. I like comments from agents. I like helping agents out. I try to answer every single comment that's posted. So that's just kind of how I roll. If you like the idea of selling final expense and you'd like to work with someone like myself to help coach you and mentor you, go to my website. It's feagentmentor.com. Click the contact box, send me a message. I'll give you some materials to review about how my program works, and then we can set up a one-on-one consultation if you like what you hear and talk about the process of moving forward. Again, thank you so much for watching. This is a little bit of an early live stream today, so for you guys that are on here, you early birds, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.